Rain drummed on the tall pine trees, making the forest seem smaller and darker. Sparky the spunky squirrel peered out from a hollow log, his whiskers twitching. Beside him, Milo Mouse shivered, while Coco Cardinal and Winnie Weasel huddled close for warmth. The wind howled like a warning outside. A sudden flash of lightning lit the clearing, throwing shadows across wet leaves. "That storm is getting worse," Sparky the spunky squirrel said, his voice tight. Coco Cardinal, wearing her blue-striped swimsuit, nodded with a worried look. The friends listened to branches snapping somewhere in the darkness beyond the clearing. Through the roar of the wind, a faint cry reached their ears, almost hidden. Milo Mouse tilted his head and asked, "Did you hear that?" Winnie Weasel's eyes widened as another plaintive hoot carried over the storm. The sound was small, but it tugged at their attention and hearts. Sparky the spunky squirrel leaned forward, straining to catch the sound again. "It's a baby owl," he said firmly, certain now. Coco Cardinal stepped toward the noise, rain splashing around her feet. The group exchanged determined glances, knowing what they must do, despite the fierce storm raging through the forest. "It must be across the forest," Winnie Weasel said, her voice steady despite the wind. Milo Mouse swallowed hard, picturing the muddy trails ahead. Above them, the storm rattled the branches like a giant's drum. The weight of the moment pressed on them, but so did their sense of duty. "We can't leave it out there alone," Sparky the spunky squirrel insisted, his tail flicking. Coco Cardinal spread her wings slightly, shielding Milo Mouse from the driving wind. Together, they stepped into the downpour, their paws and claws sinking into the wet ground. The storm closed around them like a wall. Mud squished under their paws and claws as they pressed forward through the rain. Winnie Weasel grunted, pulling her tail free from a sticky puddle. "Stay close," she called over the rumble of thunder. The storm's force tested their steps, but they stayed together, moving steadily toward the distant cry. Lightning forked across the sky, turning the forest silver for a heartbeat. Milo Mouse gasped at its sudden brightness, blinking against the glare. Sparky the spunky squirrel linked his tail with Winnie Weasel's to steady her. Coco Cardinal darted ahead, checking the path for fallen branches before they could trip. A cold gust pushed them back, chilling their fur and feathers. They leaned into it together, refusing to stop. "We're stronger when we hold on," Milo Mouse said, gripping tight. Their linked tails and paws gave them courage. The storm's roar could not break the chain of their determination. They reached a narrow stream, swollen and churning from the heavy rain. Coco Cardinal fluttered to the far side, testing the soft ground with care. "It's slippery," she warned. Winnie Weasel tightened her grip on Milo Mouse's paw, steadying him as water splashed against the bank and the wind whipped past. Sparky the spunky squirrel spotted a fallen log bridging the rushing stream. "Follow me," he said, stepping carefully onto the slick wood. One by one, the others crossed behind him. Their reflections wobbled in the water below, broken by raindrops and swirling currents that hurried past beneath their careful steps. Beyond the stream, the path grew darker under thick leaves overhead. Milo Mouse stumbled on a hidden root, but Winnie Weasel caught him before he fell. "Thanks," he said, brushing off wet leaves and mud. The air smelled of damp earth and pine, heavy with the weight of rain. Coco Cardinal paused, tilting her head to listen through the storm's noise. The baby owl's cry came again, louder this time. "It's closer now," she said, pointing toward a stand of fir trees. Rain misted across her brown feathers as she led the way toward the source of the sound. They pushed through tangled bushes, their fur and feathers quickly soaked through. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel whispered, "Almost there," his voice barely louder than the rain. Here, the wind's howl seemed softer, replaced by the steady call of the owlet. Each step brought them nearer to the frightened, waiting cry. Suddenly, a branch crashed down nearby, sending water and twigs flying. Milo Mouse jumped back in alarm, his heart racing. Winnie Weasel pulled him to safety, the straps of her swimsuit slipping on her shoulders. "Keep going," she urged, scanning the trees above for other dangers hidden in the storm. Coco Cardinal led them around a massive fallen trunk, her wings brushing wet bark. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel kept his eyes fixed on a small hollow ahead. "I see movement," he said, voice low but excited. The others quickened their steps, hope rising despite the rain still beating on them. Inside the hollow, a tiny owlet shivered under a shelter of dripping leaves. Milo Mouse stepped forward and said gently, "We're here to help you." The owlet blinked up at them with wide, fearful eyes. Its small body trembled, but it did not back away from their warm, determined faces. Winnie Weasel curled her tail gently around the owlet, sharing warmth. Coco Cardinal stood over them, shielding the tiny bird from falling rain. "We'll get you home," Sparky the Spunky Squirrel promised, his voice steady. The owlet leaned into the warmth, its frightened eyes softening in the glow of care. They turned back toward the stream, moving slowly now with the owlet in their care. Milo Mouse kept watch for slippery roots and puddles along the path. The storm still rumbled above, but its roar seemed less frightening. Their purpose gave them strength, guiding each careful step toward safety. Crossing the log took extra care, with Coco Cardinal guiding the owlet's small, uncertain steps. Winnie Weasel balanced carefully, her swimsuit darkened by rain. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel stayed behind them, encouraging each move forward. The water below rushed past, but their focus stayed on keeping the owlet safe. On the far bank, Milo Mouse spotted a patch of bright moss under a leaning tree. "This way is safer," he said, leading them towards softer ground. They followed his path, their steps quiet against the moss. The owlet clung to Winnie Weasel, comforted by her steady, careful movements. The sudden gust shook the trees, scattering drops over their heads. Coco Cardinal steadied herself and looked ahead through the rain. "Almost there," she said with a reassuring smile. The owlet clung tighter to Winnie Weasel's arm, its trust growing as they neared the place it called home. Thunder rolled again, echoing through the forest like a deep drum. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel laughed, hoping to keep everyone's spirits high. Milo Mouse joined in, and even the owlet made a tiny chirp. The shared sound lifted them, making the dark path seem brighter despite the storm above. They reached the clearing near their hollow log, the rain easing slightly. Coco Cardinal scanned the tall trees, her sharp eyes searching for the owlet's home. "I think it's in that tall pine," she said, pointing to a swaying trunk. The nest was hidden high among thick, dark branches. Winnie Weasel climbed partway up the trunk, testing each wet branch before trusting it. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel followed closely, carrying the owlet gently in his paws. Milo Mouse stayed below, watching for any danger. The rain dripped steadily, but their focus stayed on the climb toward the waiting nest. Near the top, Coco Cardinal flew beside them, guiding with calm words. "Almost there," she called over the wind's rush. Through the wet branches, the owlet's nest came into view, snug between thick limbs. The sight brought relief, and their pace quickened despite the slick bark under their paws. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel placed the owlet gently into the nest, careful of the leaves. Winnie Weasel adjusted the damp twigs around it for comfort. From the ground below, Milo Mouse smiled up at them. The owlet peeped softly, already calmer in the safety of its familiar home. A larger owl swooped down from the gray sky, landing beside the nest with grace. Coco Cardinal stepped back respectfully, giving space. "Your baby is safe now," Winnie Weasel said softly. The parent owl bent its head toward them, eyes bright with gratitude even in the fading light. The parent owl hooted warmly, the sound deep and steady. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel felt his heart swell with pride at their success. Rain still fell around them, but it seemed gentler now. The storm no longer felt like a threat, only a backdrop to their shared triumph. "We did it together," Milo Mouse said, his voice warm. Coco Cardinal nodded, her swimsuit clinging to her feathers in the rain. The owlet peeped happily from its nest, safe once more. Their smiles shone brighter than the gray sky above, filled with the joy of helping a friend. They climbed down carefully, tails and paws still linked for safety. Winnie Weasel grinned at Sparky the Spunky Squirrel. "Teamwork kept us strong," she said. The others nodded in agreement, their eyes bright. The storm's last gust passed above, leaving the forest calmer than it had been all day. Back at their hollow log, they shook off water and mud with relief. Milo Mouse lit a small lantern, casting a warm glow on their tired faces. The soft light made the hollow feel safe again. Outside, the storm's roar faded to a distant whisper among the trees. Coco Cardinal spread her wings, feeling the storm ease beyond the shelter. "We faced it and won," she said with quiet pride. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel curled up beside her, his fur still damp. The air smelled fresh and clean, washed by the passing rain and their shared courage. Winnie Weasel looked around at her friends and smiled. "Whatever comes, we'll stick together," she said firmly. The forest stood quiet now, leaves dripping softly in the calm. Inside the hollow log, they rested close, knowing their friendship could weather any storm the forest might bring again. Milo Mouse peeked out from behind a big oak tree, watching his friends. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel zoomed past on a leafy ramp, shouting, "Acorn Express! All aboard!" Milo giggled, but sighed. He felt too small to join the wild, bouncy games they loved. Bella Beaver balanced a stack of twigs taller than herself and said, "Building a cart is easy unless you sneeze." Milo imagined sneezing and sending twigs flying like rockets. He laughed at the picture in his head, yet stayed back. The sunny meadow buzzed with cheerful chatter. Chatty Chipmunk zipped over, cheeks stuffed with acorns, mumbling something Milo couldn't understand. "Did you say giant cart or giant carrot?" Milo asked. Everyone burst out laughing. Even the grass seemed to wiggle in the breeze, as if it was laughing too at the silly mix-up. Sparky spread out enormous leaves like blankets and said, "These will make our slide as smooth as butter." Milo pictured sliding into a giant pile of toast and nearly giggled out loud. The thought warmed him, even with his worry about being too small to help. Bella Beaver gnawed a branch with quick, funny chomps that sounded like a drum solo. "Ta-da! Perfect axle!" she announced proudly. Milo clapped softly, imagining himself with a tail that could hammer or drum. He still wondered if he could help without making a squeaky mistake. Chatty Chipmunk tried to carry 6 acorns at once, but they bounced away like rubber balls. One rolled right into Milo's paws. "Looks like you're part of the game now," Sparky teased. Milo blushed and rolled it back, wishing he could join without feeling out of place. The friends set the acorn cart frame on Bella's sturdy log. "It's bigger than my whole bedroom," Milo said with wide eyes. Sparky winked and replied, "Perfect for a grand ride. No bedtime required." Milo chuckled at the idea of riding until the moon came out. Leaves fluttered down as Sparky climbed high to collect more. Milo held the pile steady, feeling like a tiny leaf guard. "Don't let them escape," Sparky called, pretending the leaves were sneaky spies. Milo grinned, imagining tiny leaves tiptoeing away, wearing secret disguises and silly hats. Bella Beaver hammered sticks together with her tail, each thump making Milo jump. "Tail power," she laughed, giving a final whack. Milo chuckled, imagining his own tail as a bouncing hammer that could fix anything. The cart frame wobbled once, then stood proud like a wooden champion. Chatty Chipmunk zipped in circles so fast he got dizzy and fell into the leaf pile. "Leaf monster attack!" he shouted, wiggling around. Milo laughed so hard his whiskers wiggled, thinking the leaf monster might tickle him into next week if it caught him. The cart was finally ready, and Sparky stood proudly beside it. "We need test drivers," he said. Milo stepped back, thinking they meant big drivers with big paws. His heart thumped like tiny drum beats as he watched the others glance around for the perfect volunteer. Bella Beaver pointed at Milo. "You're light and speedy, perfect for the first run." Milo's eyes widened in surprise. "Me? I might zoom right into next Tuesday," he said. The others laughed, but Milo wasn't sure if his paws were ready for such a speedy adventure. Sparky helped Milo climb in, joking, "Seatbelt made of acorns, very safe if you get hungry." Milo gripped the sides tightly. His whiskers twitched with nerves and excitement. The cart felt huge around him, like sitting inside a hollow pumpkin, ready to roll downhill. Chatty Chipmunk gave a mighty push and shouted, "Fast as a squirrel sneeze." The cart rolled down the hill, leaves rustling like applause all around. Milo's eyes widened as the wind tickled his ears and the world blurred into green and gold streaks. Milo's ears flapped in the wind as he zoomed faster than he'd ever run. "Whee!" he cried, forgetting he was small. The hills seemed to cheer him on, each bump making the cart hop like a dancing bunny under the bright, laughing sky. Sparky ran alongside, pretending to race but panting hard. "You're too quick for me," he said between breaths. Milo laughed and steered the cart with tiny wiggles. He felt like the captain of a speedy ship, sailing through a sea of golden leaves. Bella Beaver waved from the finish line, holding a twig trophy high. "Champion driver incoming," she called. Milo grinned wider than the cart itself as he rolled to a stop. The cart creaked softly, as if it was proud of its speedy little driver. Chatty Chipmunk jumped in front, pretending to be a speed bump. Milo swerved and shouted, "No bumping the mouse!" Everyone collapsed in giggles. Milo's cheeks ached from smiling, and he realized the games were even better when they were just a little bit silly. They tried the leaf slide next, with Sparky going first. He spun around halfway down, yelling, "Leaf tornado!" Milo clapped at the swirling leaves. The slide looked like a twisting ribbon of green and gold, and Milo felt his paws itch for a turn. Bella Beaver slid so fast she accidentally made a leaf snowstorm. Milo got buried under the fluttering pile. He popped his head out and said, "Guess I'm the leaf mouse now." Everyone laughed, brushing leaves from their fur as the slide sparkled in the sun. Chatty Chipmunk zoomed past and did a somersault at the end. "Beat that," he challenged, his cheeks puffed with excitement. Milo grinned and whispered, "Watch me." His whiskers twitched with anticipation as he stepped onto the slide, ready to show his speedy secret. Milo launched down the slide, his small size making him super quick. He landed perfectly and shouted, "Fastest mouse on leaves!" The friends cheered loudly. Milo's tail flicked with pride as he realized being small could be the very thing that made him great. Sparky patted Milo's shoulder. "Small? More like speedy," he said warmly. Milo puffed his chest, feeling taller inside. The meadow seemed to sparkle just for him, and even the breeze danced around, whispering that he was exactly the right size for fun. Bella Beaver said, "Games aren't about size, they're about fun." Milo nodded, thinking of the cart and slide that fit everyone. He saw how each piece was made for all of them, no matter their paws, tails, or how tall they stood in the meadow. Chatty Chipmunk added, "And about laughing so much, cheeks hurt." Milo's cheeks already ached from smiling. He rubbed them and giggled, thinking maybe cheek workouts were the secret to winning every race, no matter how fast or slow you ran. They raced again, mixing cart rides and slides into one silly relay. Milo zipped through each part, making funny faces the whole way. His friends laughed harder with every twist, tumble, and wobble, turning the meadow into their own playground of joyful chaos. Sparky pretended his tail was a flag and waved at Milo's finish. "Victory for Team Tiny," he announced. Milo bowed dramatically, almost tipping over. The crowd of friends erupted into cheers, and even the leaves seemed to clap along with their rustling sound. Bella Beaver handed Milo the twig trophy, saying, "Perfect size for a perfect friend." Milo held it high, feeling just right. The trophy caught the sunlight, shining like a tiny crown. Milo's heart felt full as he stood among friends who truly saw him. Chatty Chipmunk balanced the trophy on his head until it fell. "Oops, guess it's safer with you," he said. Milo laughed and caught it quickly. The group chuckled together, the sound blending with the gentle rustle of leaves under the fading light. As the sun set, the friends sat together on the leaf pile. Milo Mouse smiled, knowing kindness meant making everyone feel the right size. In that warm, olden moment, he felt exactly that. Perfectly himself, perfectly with friends, and perfectly ready for tomorrow's games. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel stood proudly on the sunny hill, pointing toward the wide meadow. "We should build a tunnel to the new playground," he said. Penny Porcupine clapped her paws with excitement. Bella Beaver and Berry Badger nodded, their eyes bright with the promise of adventure. The friends gathered shovels, buckets, and a big map Bella Beaver had drawn. "We'll start here," said Berry Badger, tapping the soft ground. A warm breeze carried the smell of fresh grass as they studied the map and planned the route carefully together. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel dug the first pawful of loose dirt, his tail twitching with energy. Penny Porcupine scooped the soil into a bucket beside him. "We'll make it the best tunnel ever," Bella Beaver said, her eyes shining with determination. The tunnel entrance grew wider as Berry Badger pushed soil aside with his strong claws. Sunlight warmed their backs while they worked steadily. "This is going to be epic," Sparky the Spunky Squirrel said, his voice full of excitement for the journey ahead. A heavy rock blocked their path, making Penny Porcupine frown in frustration. "We can't stop now," Bella Beaver said firmly. Berry Badger wedged his claws under the rock, muscles straining as he heaved against its stubborn weight. The rock rolled free at last, and everyone cheered loudly. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel grinned, brushing the dust from his fur. "Forward," he said, stepping ahead with quick paws, eager to see what lay deeper in the tunnel. The tunnel grew darker as they moved deeper underground, shadows creeping around them. Penny Porcupine lit a small lantern, its glow bouncing off the walls. "It's cozy down here," she said, smiling at the warm circle of light. Bella Beaver measured the tunnel walls with her paws to keep them even and safe. Berry Badger dug steadily, his shoulders strong and sure. "We're making good time," Sparky the Spunky Squirrel said, encouraging them to keep their pace. A low rumble made the dirt tremble under their paws, and Penny Porcupine gasped in surprise. "What was that?" asked Bella Beaver, glancing around. Berry Badger urged them to stay calm, his voice steady in the dim light. Some soil collapsed near the tunnel side wall, blocking part of their path forward. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel dashed ahead to inspect the damage. "We can fix this together," he said, his confidence lifting their spirits. Berry Badger shoveled the loose dirt away while Bella Beaver packed the wall tight with her paws. Penny Porcupine held the lantern steady, keeping shadows at bay and helping them see clearly while they worked together. With the wall secure again, they moved onward through the tunnel. The air smelled earthy and damp, wrapping around them. "Feels like we're in a secret cave," Sparky the Spunky Squirrel said, his voice echoing softly in the dark. Their paws grew tired from digging, and Penny Porcupine sighed heavily. Bella Beaver passed around fresh water from her canteen, letting everyone drink. "We'll rest soon," Berry Badger promised, giving them hope to push forward. After a short break, Sparky the Spunky Squirrel jumped up with renewed energy. "Let's finish this stretch today," he said confidently. They dug together, their movements quicker and stronger after resting. Roots dangled from the tunnel ceiling, swaying slightly in the lantern light. Penny Porcupine carefully cut them away to clear the path. Bella Beaver smoothed the floor for easy walking, while Berry Badger kept the steady pace. They reached a fork in the tunnel and paused to decide their direction. "Left or right?" asked Sparky the Spunky Squirrel. Penny Porcupine studied Bella Beaver's map, tracing the lines with one careful paw. "Right leads to the playground faster," Bella Beaver said, pointing on the map. Berry Badger marked the left fork with a small stone for later exploration. Together, they turned right, eager to reach their goal. The passage narrowed sharply, forcing Sparky the Spunky Squirrel to squeeze through first. Penny Porcupine followed closely, brushing dust from her quills. Behind them, Bella Beaver and Berry Badger moved carefully to avoid scraping the walls. A thin shaft of golden light appeared ahead, making Bella Beaver's eyes widen. "We're close," she said eagerly. Berry Badger grinned and dug faster, his claws striking the soil with determination. Suddenly, a larger rock blocked the light completely. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel tapped it and heard a hollow echo. "We can break through," he said, his voice full of confidence and excitement. Berry Badger struck the rock with all his might, chips flying into the air. Bella Beaver gathered the pieces quickly, keeping the path clear. Penny Porcupine steadied the lantern so they could see every strike. A rock cracked open, and a soft breeze whispered through the gap. "Keep going," Sparky the Spunky Squirrel said. They all dug together, eager to open the tunnel completely to the sunlight. The opening widened until sunlight spilled into the tunnel, lighting their faces. Penny Porcupine shielded her eyes and laughed in delight. Bella Beaver clapped her paws, thrilled by the bright, warm glow. They stepped into the warm daylight, blinking against its brightness. Berry Badger stretched his back with relief. "We did it," Sparky the Spunky Squirrel said proudly, feeling the joy of their success. The playground lay ahead, bright with colorful swings and shiny slides. Penny Porcupine raced forward, her quills bouncing. Bella Beaver followed with happy steps, smiling at the sight of their destination. Berry Badger tested the tunnel entrance for safety, patting the sturdy walls. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel hopped onto a swing, grinning. "Best shortcut ever," he said, swinging higher with the wind rushing past. Children arrived, giggling and pointing excitedly at the tunnel entrance. Penny Porcupine waved proudly to them. Bella Beaver explained how they had built it, describing the digging and teamwork that made it possible. Berry Badger showed the children the tunnel's sturdy walls and even floor. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel invited them to explore inside. Laughter filled the air as the children stepped in with eager feet. They watched the children run through the tunnel, cheerful voices echoing off the walls. Penny Porcupine smiled at Bella Beaver. "Worth every pawful of dirt," she said warmly, feeling proud of their hard work. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel swung high, feeling the wind rush past his ears. Berry Badger rested on a bench nearby, content to watch. The sun shone brightly overhead, bathing the playground in golden light. Bella Beaver filled a bucket with sand for the playground sandbox. Penny Porcupine joined her, shaping small castles with careful paws. Berry Badger chuckled at their creations, enjoying the peaceful moment. As the day ended, the friends sat together watching the golden sunset over the meadow. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel said, "We never gave up," and the others nodded in agreement, feeling proud. The tunnels stood strong, a lasting testament to their teamwork and courage. Penny Porcupine, Bella Beaver, and Berry Badger grinned at Sparky the Spunky Squirrel, knowing this adventure would be remembered for years to come. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel balanced on a wobbly branch, tail flicking wildly. "Bet I can bounce like a nut in a jar," he said. Coco Cardinal flapped nearby, and autumn leaves whirled around them like bright, crunchy confetti tossed by invisible party guests. Chatty Chipmunk stuffed his cheeks so full on acorns he looked like a walking balloon. He mumbled something about energy for epic games. Winnie Weasel twirled a twig like a baton and declared they should play drum tag in the clearing, grinning at her own cleverness. Berry Badger's shiny digging drum sat at the edge of the clearing, gleaming in sunlight like treasure. "Careful around that," Coco Cardinal warned, flapping nervously. But Sparky had already bounced closer, drumming on it with his tail like he was performing for a squirrel audience. The friends laughed as the drum thumped loudly, sounding like a marching band of raccoons. Chatty Chipmunk added a silly beat by tapping acorns together, making everyone giggle harder. Even Coco Cardinal tapped her claws on a branch, joining the noisy fun with a cheeky grin. Winnie Weasel spun and tapped the drum with a stick, shouting, "I'm the rhythm ruler." The beat echoed through the clearing. Berry Badger was still down by the river, digging away, completely unaware of the racket and the playful chaos happening behind him. Suddenly, Sparky leapt onto the drum with a dramatic ta-da! The sound was loud, booming across the trees. Then came a sharp crack that silenced them all. Everyone's ears twitched at the sudden noise, as if the forest itself had gasped in shock. They froze mid-laugh. The drum's side had split open, and a tiny piece rolled away like a runaway cookie. Coco Cardinal's eyes widened in alarm. "Uh-oh, Berry's going to notice," she said, her wings drooping as the reality of their accident sank in. Chatty Chipmunk whispered nervously, "Maybe we can glue it?" Winnie Weasel tilted her head thoughtfully. "Or we could tell him the truth?" The idea hung in the air like a wobbly leaf, making everyone shuffle their paws with uneasy glances at each other. Sparky groaned dramatically. Telling the truth is scarier than climbing the tallest tree. Coco Cardinal chuckled softly. But less scary than a mad badger, she replied. The group exchanged nervous smiles, imagining Barry's possible frown and deciding which was truly scarier. They huddled under the big oak tree, the autumn leaves whispering around them. After a moment, they decided to march to Barry right away. "We'll be brave," Winnie Weasel said, puffing her chest like a parade leader, ready to face a challenge. As they walked toward the river, Chatty Chipmunk tried to lighten the mood. "If we drum up courage, maybe Barry will drum up a smile," he joked. Sparky snorted with laughter, making Coco Cardinal grin despite the knot of worry in her chest. They reached the riverbank, where Barry Badger was digging in soft soil. He looked up, wiping mud from his nose. "Hey, gang, what's up?" he asked cheerfully, clearly unaware that his favorite drum had just suffered a very unmusical injury. Coco Cardinal shuffled her wings nervously. "Barry, we, had a drumtastrophe," she said, the word tumbling out awkwardly. Barry tilted his head in confusion. "A drum what?" he asked, eyebrows raised, clearly curious about this mysterious musical disaster. Sparky stepped forward, tail twitching. "We were playing and cracked your favorite digging drum," he admitted. Barry blinked, then burst out laughing. "You cracked it? Like an egg?" he said, his chuckle echoing over the splashing river. Winnie Weasel giggled despite herself. "More like a walnut," she added. Barry sighed, but his smile stayed. "I appreciate you telling me," he said warmly, making them all feel lighter, as if a heavy backpack had been set down. Chatty Chipmunk asked eagerly, "Can we help fix it?" Barry scratched his chin thoughtfully. "Maybe we can make a new one together," he said. The group perked up, exchanging excited looks at the idea of building something brand new. Sparky bounced on his toes. "A super drum, extra loud," Coco Cardinal added, "and decorated with leaf patterns." Barry chuckled. "Sounds like we're aiming for the fanciest drum in the forest," he said, already imagining the booming beats it might make. Barry led them to his workshop, a cozy burrow filled with tools and piles of wood. "Grab some sticks," he said. "We'll start cutting panels." The friends looked around, eyes wide at the many shiny tools waiting to be used. Winnie Weasel spun a saw handle like a baton, earning a mock scolding from Barry. Chatty Chipmunk carried wood, staggering dramatically like it weighed a ton. Sparky laughed and offered to help, though he nearly tripped over his own tail. Sparky sanded a panel with sweeping strokes, making odd faces to entertain Coco Cardinal. She laughed so hard she dropped a feather on the floor. "That's your sanding dance?" she teased, wiping tears from her eyes from giggling too much. Barry showed them how to fit the panels together. "It's like building a puzzle," he explained. Sparky muttered, "A puzzle you can bang on." Winnie Weasel tapped one panel approvingly, clearly enjoying the thought of a noisy, completed project. Chatty Chipmunk hammered nails, singing loudly and off-key. Winnie Weasel tapped a stick like a drum roll for each nail. Barry shook his head, smiling at the odd musical construction team that seemed to turn every task into a performance. Coco Cardinal painted the sides with bright swirls, adding tiny acorn shapes for flair. Barry admired her work, nodding in approval.
"Looks like forest fireworks," he said. Sparky pretended to shield his eyes from the dazzling paint job. Sparky tested the drum with a gentle tap. "Wow, it's already boomy," he said. Barry laughed. "Wait until we stretch the top," he replied. The others leaned in, eager to finish and hear the full booming sound. They pulled a thick hide across the top, tying it tight. "Feels like a trampoline," Winnie Weasel said, bouncing her paw on it. Chatty Chipmunk pretended to jump, earning a playful glare from Barry, who wanted it safe and strong. Barry gave the first official thump. The sound echoed across the clearing, making a squirrel in the distance drop his pine cone. Everyone laughed, the deep beat rumbling in their chests like friendly thunder. Sparky leapt onto the drum again, but carefully this time. "Ta-da, without the crack," he announced proudly. Barry clapped his paws, approving the safer performance, and clearly enjoying the return of playful music without mishaps. Chatty Chipmunk started a rhythm, cheeks puffing with effort. Coco Cardinal added cheerful bird calls, and Winnie Weasel twirled her stick in time. The clearing filled with their playful sounds, like a forest parade with no audience but the trees. Barry joined in, pounding a deep beat that made the ground hum beneath them. "This is better than before," he said happily. The friends laughed, playing faster as the rhythm grew wild and joyful. Sparky grinned. "Honesty makes the music louder," he declared. Coco Cardinal nodded. "And friendship keeps it steady," she added. Barry smiled, feeling the truth of their words in every beat of the drum. They played until the stars peeked out above, the drum echoing like happy heartbeats. The night air felt warm with laughter, and even the crickets seemed to tap their legs in time to the joyous rhythm. Barry shared warm berry muffins from his burrow. Chatty Chipmunk ate 3 before anyone noticed, cheeks bulging comically. Sparky raised an eyebrow, but laughed when Chatty pretended they were fuel for more drumming. Winnie Weasel joked, "We should build a muffin drum next." Sparky pretended to drum on his muffin, producing a squishy sound. Coco Cardinal groaned and laughed at the silly idea, shaking her head fondly. Coco Cardinal laughed. "That would be the sweetest sound ever." Barry agreed with a chuckle. "But no cracking allowed," he warned. The group giggled, imagining a drum made entirely of pastries and frosting. The friends curled up around the new drum, proud of their work and their honesty. Their laughter drifted into the night, sealing their promise to always tell the truth and to keep their rhythms strong together. In the sunny forest, Coco Cardinal adjusted her moss-green cardigan and smiled warmly. Chatty Chipmunk tapped a log with a stick, making a gentle beat. Sparky the Spunky Squirrel and Winnie Weasel leaned closer, listening to the exciting idea of a magical concert under the stars. The air smelled of fresh pine as Sparky the Spunky Squirrel twirled in her gray dress. "We can make our own instruments," she said with excitement. Winnie Weasel nodded in agreement, his leather coat creaking softly as he moved toward the others. Chatty Chipmunk pointed toward a fallen tree near the clear brook. "This will be our drum," he said with a grin. Coco Cardinal clapped her hands, feeling joy rise inside her like sunlight streaming through bright green leaves. They gathered long reeds from the water's edge, each slender stem swaying in the gentle breeze. Sparky the spunky squirrel hummed a cheerful tune, while Winnie Weasel bundled them together. Laughter rippled through the clearing, carrying warmth into every corner of the forest. Coco Cardinal sat on a soft mossy rock, carefully carving holes into the reeds. Chatty Chipmunk watched closely, asking how the sound would change. It felt as if the whole forest leaned in to listen to their careful work. Winnie Weasel shook a handful of dry nuts, hearing a gentle rattle echo in his hands. "Shakers," he said, eyes bright with delight. Sparky the spunky squirrel spun around, imagining the lively rhythm they would soon play together. The friends placed each finished instrument in a neat circle on the grass. Coco Cardinal whispered, "We will play for everyone." Chatty Chipmunk grinned, his heart full of pride for their teamwork and the joy it would bring. Golden afternoon light filled the forest as they practiced together. Sparky the spunky squirrel tapped the drum in steady beats. Winnie Weasel swayed gently, adding soft rattles from the shakers to the warm, growing music. Coco Cardinal lifted the reed flute and played a sweet, clear note. Chatty Chipmunk joined in with steady drum beats, smiling at her melody. The sound danced through the trees like leaves drifting on a playful wind. They took turns trying each instrument, laughing at the different tones they made. Winnie Weasel's deep drum beats made Sparky the spunky squirrel giggle. The forest echoed with cheerful music, wrapping them all in its happy sound. Chatty Chipmunk suggested they invite the other animals to hear their songs. Coco Cardinal agreed at once, her moss-green cardigan catching glimmers of light between branches. The plan began to feel real and wonderfully exciting. They wandered through the forest, telling friends about the special concert. Sparky the spunky squirrel greeted each animal with a warm smile. Winnie Weasel promised that it would happen under the sparkling stars. By evening, soft shadows stretched across the winding paths. Coco Cardinal set the instruments neatly near the wide old oak tree. Chatty Chipmunk checked the drum carefully, making sure it was ready for the night. Sparky the spunky squirrel arranged bright leaves for the guests to sit on. Winnie Weasel lit tiny lanterns, their golden glow making the clearing look magical. The mood felt gentle, warm, and full of happy expectation. The first stars appeared above as animals gathered quietly in the clearing. Coco Cardinal felt a warm flutter in her chest. Chatty Chipmunk leaned closer and whispered, "It's time." Sparky the spunky squirrel began with a bright, steady drumbeat. Winnie Weasel added the shakers, smiling at each friend in the crowd. Their music carried through the cool night air like a friendly call. Coco Cardinal's flute sang a clear, sweet melody that floated gently. Chatty Chipmunk joined in with playful rhythms. The audience swayed together, feeling the joy in every note they heard. They played faster, then slower, letting each sound shine in its own way. Sparky the spunky squirrel closed her eyes, listening to the harmony. Winnie Weasel tapped his foot happily in time. The forest seemed to glow as music filled every branch and leaf. Coco Cardinal and Chatty Chipmunk shared a quick, knowing smile. Friendship felt like the strongest and sweetest note of all. Sparky the spunky squirrel looked at Winnie Weasel and laughed softly. "We sound amazing together," she said with joy. The shakers rattled gently, like soft rain falling on a quiet night. Chatty Chipmunk's drumming slowed to a gentle, steady beat. Coco Cardinal let the flute's last note fade into the night air. The crowd sat still, smiling in the peaceful quiet. And cheers and clapping filled the clearing, bright as the lantern light. Sparky the spunky squirrel bowed, her gray dress swishing. Winnie Weasel tipped his leather coat in a friendly thank you. Coco Cardinal thanked everyone for coming with warm words. Chatty Chipmunk said, "We made this music together." His words felt true, wrapping them all in a shared happiness. The friends packed their instruments carefully, making sure each was safe. Sparky the spunky squirrel offered crunchy nuts to share. Winnie Weasel handed out lanterns to guide their guests home. Under the silver moon, Coco Cardinal, Chatty Chipmunk, Sparky the spunky squirrel, and Winnie Weasel walked side by side. They knew that when friends share their talents, the sweetest music will always fill the air. As the last notes faded, Coco Cardinal smiled and felt her heart glow warm. Under the twinkling stars, the friends knew their music would always guide them home.